Hello and welcome to my October vlog. It is the 17th of October, so I am expecting this to be a short vlog as I am starting it rather late. So I'm reading Beck by Darren Shan, which is the fourth book in the Demon Arter series. I think this one is set in Ireland just a bit over 2,000 years ago, and Beck is our main character. She is a priestess. Well, she was a priestess in training, and the woman training her was killed by a demon, so her training's not going very well. But where she lives is constantly being attacked by demons, and the attacks are getting more frequent. And she knows a little bit of magic, she knows a little bit of healing, but all her skills are becoming rusty, and she's not particularly powerful. But then one day, a child around the same age as her makes his way to where she lives, and he's got very little language, but he's asking that some of them come with him and follow him. They believe he's come for help from a neighbouring settlement, and some of them agree to go with him. In their travels, they learn that the demons are getting more intelligent as well as getting stronger, but they then find somebody who says that he knows a way to destroy them, and that is about where I am. We've just had an appearance of Lord Loss, who is probably the only character so far that's been in every book, and he is a very strong demon with extra powers. So I'm enjoying it so far. I've read this book before as a child, and I think that it was my least favourite in the series, but so far rereading as an adult, I'm not rating it any lower as the others. But I'm not even halfway through, so that could change as I go along. I'm also reading The Starving Saint by Caitlin Sparrow, but I fell asleep before I was half an hour into the audiobook, so I don't really know what it's about. All I can really remember is that there is a castle under siege, they're starving, and there's a woman in it who can do magic, I think, but I could be wrong on that. So once I actually have any idea what the book is about, I will come back and update you. And I'll probably update you either when I'm further along with this or when I've finished it. We'll see. Maybe I will update you more often than I did last month. In honesty, I did alright last month until it got to about the halfway point, and the second half was just a bit of a write-off. But we'll see. Hello, I am currently sat in the mess of my Illumicrate unboxing in order to tell you what I've been reading. I could well update you without being in this mess. I could clean it up first, film somewhere else. But here we are, with pins and needles and destruction everywhere. So I've now finished Beck, and I enjoyed it. When I read it as a kid, it was my least favourite in the series, and I can't actually remember if this was the one I stopped on or if I read one more book than this in the series. And I think this time round, it is also one that I like less than the other three that I've read, but it's only by a very small amount. So all the books are linked, and it took a little while for me to realise how this one linked into it. Of course, the main demon in these books, so the big bad, the big enemy, is Lord Loss, and he is in every book so far, and I have a feeling that he will be in every book in the series. So he made an appearance, but I think although he is a link throughout them, I think there are often other links. So for instance, the first and third have the same main character, and some side characters crop up across all three and not just Lord Loss. But this one, the only character in this that was in any of the others was Lord Loss. But I have a feeling that as I go through the series, the links between them will become a lot clearer. So I think in my last update, I said about how I thought that this was set in Ireland about 2,000 years ago. I think I was close, about halfway through the book, discovered a glossary of terms and a name pronunciation guide in the back, which was useful. Despite how bad I tend to be at pronouncing names, I was finding that I was pronouncing most of the names in here correctly, or very close to. But it also mentions in here that the book is set in Ireland in the middle of the 5th century. So I was correct about the country, but I was a little off for the date. But it was an interesting setting. So As well as the demons, there's a lot of mention of Christianity. Didn't paint it positively. So I think it's set a little after when Christianity first comes to Ireland. And I think when there's changes in religion and beliefs in countries, there's always strife, there's always problems. Often there's violence. But I don't actually know enough about Christianity's entrance into Ireland. I'm actually curious as to what the author's thoughts are around Christianity, because it just seemed purely negative in this book, and I don't know if it's just because of the setting or if there's any of his own thoughts at all. I'll wait to find out. So I just had a quick look online and I found an answer to a Goodreads question that he answered, where he stated that he doesn't tend to talk about his religious beliefs and that his religious beliefs aren't reflected in the characters in his books. His characters will have their own beliefs which are different to his, which makes sense. You don't want all your characters to have the exact same beliefs as you. So, yeah, Christianity not painted well in this book, but it is from the point of view of a character who is seeing Christianity spread across her country when it doesn't match her own beliefs, so it's unlikely to view it positively. So I did find the book predictable, though I can never really say how much of that is because I read it when I was a child. I don't feel I remember it very well, but it could always be having an effect on what I predict is going to happen in the books. The ending was quite sad. I found out with a few of these, but at least my favourite character survived. Not telling you who it is though. I'll try and remember not to mention who my favourite character is in like my wrap up or anything like that. So after I read this, I started reading Thief of Night by Holly Black. So I remember enjoying the first one, but as I started reading this and it kept referencing things that happened in the first book, I realised I could remember barely anything. So it probably was a good job that it gave little tidbits of information about what happened in the last book. I do also remember that a lot of people were really disappointed with the first book, whereas I found that it was better than my expectations. But that is probably because the Cruel Prince series was really, really popular and well liked by many, whereas I found it was enjoyable, but I didn't find it as good as a lot of other people did. It also led me to having less expectations for this than I think other people did. So it was more likely to go above those expectations. The problem with not being able to remember the first book very well is that there's not that much I can talk about. As if I talk about what I know, then I'll be talking more about this one, which could have spoilers. I think a main plot point in this book would actually spoil the ending of the last book. So what I can tell you is the first book is called The Book of Night, and our main character is Charlie Hall. I think she used to be a thief and con artist, but she's trying to go down the straight and narrow. She works in a bar and has a shadow that is not like other shadows, but I can't actually remember what her shadow can do that is different. Doing a real good job at explaining this. And there's demons and magic, and I'm sure you now know exactly what these books are about. So we've got less than a week left of October now. I was planning on reading more than I have. We'll see how much we can get through. So I want to finish Thief of Night. I want to read Shy Tran's Banshee. Then I've got a horror blind date with a book that I want to give a go. But I've got a feeling I'm not going to read all that by the end of the month. So we'll see how I go. Hello, so update on what I've been reading. I finished Thief of Night. There's not really that much I can tell you without spoiling the first book, I don't think. It's just a continuation where Charlie's still involved in the criminal underbody of shadow magic. She's still screwing herself over as much as the world is screwing her over. And just like the first book, I rated this 4 stars as well. It rounded the duology off nicely, and I enjoyed it. Not much else to say. Then yesterday I read Blood Beast by Darren Shan. This is the 5th book in the Demon Arter series, and I read it in one day. That's not particularly difficult. It's not particularly long. The words are particularly small. I hope there's no spoilers on that page. And it's quite fast paced. I enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I found it made clearer some of the links between the last book and the series as a whole. So in this one we are back with Brubs. He is back home and he's pretty much doing what teenage boys do. He goes to school, he hangs out with his friends. There's not actually as much action in this book as there are in the previous ones. I think this is the last book that I read when I was reading the series as a child. So anything further than this, and I don't really know what's going to happen or anything. Although saying that, I barely remembered this one. Most of my time reading it, I was trying to remember whether I had read it or not. And I think I'm still only about 75% sure that I read it, as nothing really seems familiar to me. It does surprise me that I didn't read on as a child, as the ending is a huge cliffhanger, but I think it's because I was reading them as they came out and then I got distracted by other series and forgot to pick up the next one. I do now have them all and I am looking forward to continuing the series. So I'm also listening to Starling Saints via audiobook. I'm not particularly far into it, but I'm quite enjoying it. So it's set in a medieval castle that's under siege. They are very close to running out of food. They had run out of drinkable water. However, a witch managed to come up with a way of decontaminating it and making it drinkable again. So the water problem's saved. And she is working on trying to create food as well so that everyone doesn't starve. And because she's not been showing any results, the king has assigned a knight to watch her. Now, it's quite a religious place, and the knight is devout in her belief, so she doesn't think much of the witch. She doesn't believe in magic, and she's not really too happy to be following the witch around. Although part of this is because she feels that there's more that she can be doing. So those two are 2 perspectives we have. And then we have a third perspective, which is a very serving girl, I believe. She wants to get revenge against the knight because she knows her from her past. But she's also looking at ways to escape the castle as well. So it could be that she stays to get her revenge. It could be that she flees to, I guess, not starve to death. So I have just got to where the saints come into it. So I'm not particularly that far into it. But I'm getting the impression that the saints are not the holy figures that people believe them to be, that there's something going on with them, and that they're probably not going to save everyone, which is pretty much what people believe they've appeared to do. But I'm planning on doing some household chores today, really exciting, but I'll be listening to my audiobook while I do so. So I may well be able to update you later today, though it's probably more likely to be tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last day of October. I am going to a Halloween party in the evening, so I don't know how much time in the day I'll have to update you, but it could be, it's more likely to be a few days after that I close the vlog and whatnot, but we'll see. So this is the end of a poor excuse of a reading vlog. I say poor excuse because I don't think I've actually got that much footage for it. It would surprise me if it's more than 15 minutes. But as I only really did it for half a month, it's not that much of a surprise really. And I think I only read 4 books in that time, which 4 books in half a month is good. I just haven't spoken about them that much. So I've now finished The Starling Saints by Caitlin Starling. Technically, I finished it the 1st of November, but as I only had half an hour on the audiobook, I counted it as finishing it in October, as it seemed pointless to talk about such a small amount at the beginning of a new vlog. That being said, I don't really have much to say about it. I enjoyed it. I do feel that I started tuning out a bit towards the end, but I think that was more because I was distracted by things like getting ready for a Halloween party, and not because of the book itself. I can't even remember what I've told you about it already. I do know that I did tell you I was reading it, but what I told you in regards to what it's about, I can't remember. But it was a good ending. the stakes ramped up. Our three main characters ended up working with each other, although at times they were working against each other still. And I think that is basically all I have to say about it. So yeah, I think this has been my worst vlog so far. Barely worth it. I did find though that 3 of the books I read were sequels, and it's hard to discuss them without going into spoiler territory for previous books. I would say that is something I should be mindful of for future videos. However, there's a good possibility that I'm going to stop doing monthly vlogs. I don't think I'm enjoying them. I'm going to give it one more try and we'll see how that goes. But anyway, what did everyone else read this month? Did you read any books specifically because of it being Halloween? If so, what sort of Halloweeny reads do you like to read? Let me know in the comments. And as usual, like it if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you later.